destruction, a micro away from the pros, focusing now stalkers one by one.
Coming in from every single angle. There's a time warp, but look at this concave, this crescent moon.
But the fight, this is what's gonna happen now. The supply goes in Hug's favor.
He's just gonna barrel through, take out whatever. So much file here coming forth.
Looking like Nesty is going to take it here.
Dancing the roaches a little bit. Scarlet.
Now the Hydras are exposed. Those units are gonna die, and it's not really gonna make that much of a difference. GG.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from New York City. That's the Empire State Building and lots of pretty clouds floating overhead. You're watching WCS America. This is day 2 of Challenger League group stages. Trying to find out who's going to go to Premier League. Top 2 in the group go. 3rd place goes Challenger. 4th place is out of WCS America. I'm Axel Toss, joined by AxLab. Yesterday, we saw Maxed tear it up in the STC. Get 2nd place. They're going to Premier.
It was a pretty hard-fought victory, though. I mean, Max
Yeah.
said 2-1 both series. Ghost User almost snuck in there, but SCC said, no, sirree. I made round of 16 last time.
That's
I want a
impressive.
shot at making it even better.
Yeah, STC is really good. We thought, okay, he lost against Maxed. There could be a chance he's going to get knocked out by Hart. And then, of course, Ghost User had a face-off against him. But STC's showing, he can lose, but he can still, has that comeback ability and very solid player. You don't go to the loser's match and then come back and win and qualify out of the group if you're not good at the game. So STC, great job from him. Him and Max will be advancing to Premier League Season 2 WCS America. Speaking of which, let's talk about the other groups really quickly. Today we're going to have Major Killer, Vibe, Bales, of course, moving on to Group C. We have Kapach, XY, Huck. Of course, Idra's going to be forfeiting, so he will not be playing. That's going to be Wednesday. And then starting next week, we're going to have groups every single day going on. Seppi Illusion, Telia, Huang Xin on Monday. Then, of course, on Tuesday, Jim Ian, Jadong, Drunken Boy. Wednesday, we're going to have Group F, Top State, Minigun, Xenocider. Thursday will be the next group. Tasia, Neeb, Hello Kitty, Maker. And Friday, the last group, we send Phoenix, Oz, and Sage. Lots of great names there. Of course, each and every guy trying to advance to the Premier League. So we'll see what happens.
A lot of amazing players here. Of course, today is going to be Group B.
Yes. So Group B is Major, Killer, Vibe, Bales. We're going to start with Major versus Killer. Give me your thoughts on these players.
I think it's going to be a great match because both Major and Killer are both very, very... I mean, they're like the 2 best guys from the Central and South American continents, respectively. They're doing DeVito's right now, so the game will get started fairly quickly. But the group as a whole,
yeah.
I mean, we said yesterday Bales is probably the dark horse. But I do think he's got a good shot against Vibe. Vibe is a player who's a very standard player.
Yeah.
And sometimes a player who's very standard, if you do some interesting timings, you change up your build a little bit, you can really catch him off guard. And earlier we saw Bales, he had some great upsets in the earlier in the Challenger League qualifiers.
Yeah, Bales was able to qualify for WCS America, the Challenger League, through that qualifier, but then ended up falling to Phoenix 1-2 to get him to this point against Vibe. But Bales, again, one of those dark horses, trying to make it into Premier League. Not a lot of expectations for him, so as far as pressure is concerned, maybe that's going to help a little bit. But Vibe has had some strong ZVP play. He went 2-1 against Sage, but then fell 0-2 to Jim.
Yes.
And that series was pretty dramatically one-sided. I think there's a big intimidation factor as far as Vibe facing off against Jim. I talked to him before that match, and he's like, Axel Toss, I think I'm going to play pretty cheesy because I don't know if I can face him in the late game because Jim is that good. And then we saw how that went.
That's right. That's right. Just too solid. Jim was, of course.
Yep.
Jim, we're going to see him a little bit later. He was knocked out of the challenger bracket by Scarlet.
Yes.
Of course, Bales. His big victory so far was against Max We talked about how great Max played yesterday in the Challenger League qualifiers to get in the Challenger League. He actually beat Max
Okay.
Max still made it through the loser bracket.
PvP.
Yeah, but Bales went straight through the winner bracket, taking out Max So he's definitely a very talented player. A lot of people don't know too much about him. Just because he's a younger guy, he's a newer guy, he's on
Clarity.
Yeah, the Clarity
Academy. He's not the house. He's not the house, is he?
No, he's on the academy team.
Oh, he's in the academy.
Yeah, so he's still a young kind of up and coming player.
Yeah.
But we can see he's made great steps so far, and this is going to be one of his biggest stages where if he can make it to the Premier League, that's where all of a
That'd be
sudden,
huge.
I mean, yeah, that'd be his biggest
Massive.
moment. More eyeballs on him than ever before.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and maybe get that promotion to Clarity, the team.
Yes.
He's on the academy right now, but I see no reason not to. If he can make it out of this group and into Premier League, that'd be a huge accomplishment for him. And again, it's like I think it's $1,500 if you qualify for Premier. Think about that for a second, right? And I think Bales, he's one of the younger guys.
I mean, he hasn't really made money off StarCraft 2 yet.
Yeah, he's still in high school. He's maybe getting allowance from his parents, and all of a sudden he has $1,500 to spend. I don't know what you'd spend it on.
That's
that
the
age.
guaranteed minimum.
Maybe get an Xbox One.
Yeah.
I know
could be.
you were liking that press conference. Where do you stand on the whole Xbox One versus?
For me, like I don't know much about console systems,
Sure.
so it's all about the aesthetics.
Okay. Oh.
So I kind of like the older versions, honestly. Yeah, they're more. They look more like an actual machine. The newer ones look like sleek.
Well,
and
isn't the point that you can put it in your living room and then it's very, when you
yeah,
see
but
it?
I get confused personally. Like, if I don't recognize it what it is, I'll think it's like like a placeholder, like
Okay.
a paperweight.
Don't want, yeah. Oh.
And then you don't want to use your
Right.
Your
So
Xbox
you want
as a
it to
paperweight.
be a little bit sticking out, so
Yeah.
you don't accidentally, throw it away or something.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great logic.
So we talked about how Bales is on the Clarity Gaming Academy.
Yes.
His teammate Killer, teammate Killer being on Clarity Gaming itself.
Yeah.
He's actually living on Long Island, and he's gonna be up against Major in the first match. First map is gonna be Neoplanet S.
Yes. And interesting little fact about Major and Killer, they were actually in the first group of Round of 32 Premier together,
Yes.
but they never played each other. They both played only Alive and Hero.
That's right,
Which is kinda
because
crazy.
Major went out to the loser bracket.
Lost to Hero, then lost to Alive.
Killer beat Alive.
Beat Alive, boom.
Then he lost to Hero in the winners match.
Yep.
And then because Major lost and losing match to Alive, it was a rematch between Killer and Alive, and Alive got the revenge.
Destroyed him.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because Alive is a guy who went to the World Finals.
Yes.
And he was on the verge of elimination. So it just shows, how different would things be if Killer had.
And he made top 8.
Right,
He made
exactly.
it to the group in the World Finals
he was
as well.
playing in. He was playing against like MVP or someone or.
He lost to Innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he did get stomped by Innovation, but
It's just
he
crazy.
made it to the top 8.
It's crazy to think about though, like just the little things that can happen in this tournament where he was Alive was on the verge of being eliminated in the round of 32.
Yeah. I mean, he lost his first set to Killer.
Actually being right here, right now, right where
Yeah.
Killer is potentially.
Yes.
I don't know. I when I saw that, I'm just like, whoa. Because you start thinking about this stuff, it's like the smallest like change in a game or a match can really affect the entire course of a tournament.
It makes you realize how close some of these players are. I mean, you talk about Alive being top 8 in the global finals, and
Yeah.
then a guy like Killer who's in a Challenger League trying to make it back from Premier League. But he beat Alive in the first series, he lost in the second, but
Yes.
you could say they're very close in skill level. Killer's
Absolutely.
proven time and again how good he is. So
What he's, in the past, he's been, touted as one of the best American players, and that's another interesting aspect about this group with Major, Killer, Vibe, and Bales. No Koreans,
Yes.
Koreans in this group. One of very few. I'm not sure if there are any groups with absolutely zero Koreans. I think there might be a group with just a Taiwanese player.
Ian, yeah.
Ian.
So the way the groups are made,
Yeah.
so you guys know,
Yes.
is there was a Challenger League bracket, and each group has 2 people who lost in the first round of the bracket, 1 person who lost in the second round of the bracket, and 1 person lost in the third round of the bracket. That final round, where if they won, they would have made it straight to Premier League, skipping the group stage.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they lost. But in consolation, the rest of their bracket is full of people who lost earlier, who you could say, okay, if they lost earlier, maybe they're the lower seeds, not quite as strong.
Which is funny because like there's players like Sage and Jaedong. That's why yesterday's group is so stacked. Because Hart
Yes.
lost in the first round, and then
Caesar lost in the second.
and Max had lost in the first round.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy? Max had lost in the first round of the Challenger League bracket, and now he's back in the Premier getting first in his group.
To the Muslim, I believe, right? I'm pretty sure it was.
Illusion.
Illusion. Okay.
Illusion, yep.
Sorry. Yes,
Yep.
Illusion.
You're fine.
Illusion
By the way,
had it
we're
the
waiting
same.
for Killer to come back from the
Yeah.
bathroom.
He should be back fairly soon. Oh, there we
Okay.
go. Looks like he's.
Are we? I'm gonna ask. Can I?
I
ask
think
if
they're
ready?
still doing a couple of vetoes really quickly. Or no, they're starting to see what maps can be second.
Yeah.
The way it works is you. It's not like loser pick or anything where they can like decide. It's the maps are preset before the series starts, so everyone can kind of go into the series knowing, okay, these are the maps, these are the builds I want to use on these maps. There's 7 maps in the pool. Each player vetoes 2 maps.
Yep.
That leaves you with 3 maps left, and the players take turns.
Well, you
picking
can
the map
choose
order.
to be A or B.
The higher seed does, and then it's
right.
it's
Yeah.
A gets first and fourth veto, B gets second and third. So it's most balanced that way. If you take turns, then whoever vetoes second has a big advantage. But if you do 1 veto, then another guy gets 2, then you get the last one.
Yeah.
because the last veto is the best and the first veto is the worst, so it balances it out a little bit better.
All right,
Anyways,
guys. Yep.
game is started here. Neoplanet S will be map number 1, Major versus Killer, Terran versus Zerg.
And honestly, you know, just as a scope of seeing this map, seeing this matchup, knowing these players, I feel like I'd give Major an advantage on this map. You know, very small-ish map compared to the rest of our pool. The rush distances are manageable, and taking a 4th base is like actually really hard as a Zerg player, especially against a Terran who has the mechanics that Major does, able to continually make those units and send them absolutely everywhere. It's not too far away, that 4th base, from the Terran side of the map, especially once the Terran gets 3 bases. So I'll see what happens here. It could be very interesting indeed. Let's introduce, though, in the top right-hand location, I present your Blue Zerg player, representing Team Clarity Gaming and hailing from Chile. He is Killer.
So Killer is actually, I mean, he's pretty much a South American champion.
Yeah.
Number 1 from 2012 WCS South America. Also won the 2012 Pan American Championship. There's no one can really argue he's not the best player in South America right now. Early in Starcraft 2, people had said it was Phoenix. The last about 2 years, Killer has been dominant from that region.
Killer was at the last MLG event we had in Dallas. The first Heart of the Swarm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
He was there.
He was.
I forgot. I think he lost in the first round, but
No, he beat Thorzane.
oh, you're right.
The first round, he beat Thorzane.
He was one of like the only non-Koreans to actually advance past the
And
first
a lot
round.
of people were like, it's this guy from South America versus Thorzane, one of the best players in Europe, and Killer's like, no, I'm going to beat him. So he's very, very gifted, especially in the super late game. He loves the super late game where he really excels.
Of course, his opponent in the bottom left-hand location, hailing from Mexico, currently living in Korea right now, playing for a Kespa Team 8, currently the only non-Korean on a Kespa Pro team. If you don't know what Kespa is, a very prestigious league in Korea. The best players in the world are there. He is Major.
Major, of course, the Mexican champion from 2012 WCS. He's been playing in Korea, though, for Kespa Team 8, which is something he's been wanting to do for, I think, about 5 years now, ever since Brood War. He's always dreamed of joining a Kespa team, and he's achieved it about 6 months ago, I think it was.
Has he played a Pro League match yet?
He played one.
He played one. Yes, I remember that, I think.
Yes. He did lose, but it's Pro League, so...
Yeah, that's true. And then he played in that special tournament they had, right? Where the coaches...
Oh, that might be where I saw him play,
is that
actually.
where it was? Okay, yeah.
I'm not, you know, just...
Yeah.
I follow Pro League pretty well, but
I hear you.
it's about 6 months
It's on
ago,
at
I
about
think.
4 a.m. our time, so it's
and
a
there's
little
been
bit...
about, like, at least 100 different Pro League matches so far, so hard to keep track of every single one.
So, talking about opening here, we got a command center first, it looks like, from Major.
And that's his build.
Yeah. Not too
Major
surprising.
loves macro.
Not too surprising at all.
So what's interesting about these guys is both of them are fairly macro focused. I mean, occasionally they'll throw in some early aggression, but they really like to just econ up early on. The big difference is Major's key strength is, sounds redundant, but basically building units in macro. He's really, really good at making a lot of units, and that makes him excel in the mid game. In the mid game, if you can outproduce your opponent, you have that food advantage, and you can just overwhelm them. And he loves to use multitasking as well. He's a very mechanically focused player, tries to overwhelm them with multitasking and outproducing them. Killer, while he does macro builds, he's more known for just being insanely good at the super late game. So in the super late game, even if you're a little bit behind in economy, you're both going to have maxed armies, and that's where it's all about tactics, it's about unit composition, and using the units very well, knowing how to set up the super late game battles, and Killer is a master at that.
And, I think the story of this game on this map specifically is going to be that mid game that you're talking about, where Major is so good. He's really great at, hyper producing his units, not slipping up on the macro, just getting as many units out on the field as possible. And then Killer, of course, a guy who wants to push it to the late game. So it can be very stressful as a Zerg player on this map, identifying what your opponent is doing, what kind of composition they're going for, and kind of gauging when they're coming at you. Because as a Zerg on this map, you're going to want to play reactionary as far as keeping an overlord near your opponent's natural, continue, keep scouting, keep some lings over on your opponent's side of the map, being able to tell, okay, when are they pushing out? When do I need to start preparing defense? Because as a Zerg player, you want to get as many drones out as possible, but Neoplanet S, a very small map compared to the rest of our pool, so you don't have a lot of time to react. So if you don't react perfectly when you see your opponent's units marching out across the map, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble.
This is a map, if Killer wants to do something very aggressive, this is the map he would pick to do it on.
Agreed.
Because
I agree.
he loves that super late game, Neoplanet S. It's very hard to get that 5 base economy, which is, we're talking about a super late game is when you're on 5 bases. That's very rare in Neoplanet S.
Yep.
I mean, 4 base is even very difficult. 3 bases, it can be tough as well.
If it's 5 bases, you're kind of accepting the fact that you're going to lose one of them.
Yes.
And you just keep remaking it back and forth.
So it's almost like you can't really get 5.
Yeah.
It's like 4.5
Yes.
is what you're looking at. So he is going to be very aggressive here. We see the Roach Warren's about to finish. Plenty of money in the bank for Killer. That's going to be
Boom.
converted into 11.
Roaches.
Yeah. And he has Zerging speed as well. So no baiting nest being built, so he's not going to follow this up with a super all-in. Actually, just like I said, there is a baiting nest. So we are going to see speedings rallied in behind the Roaches turn into baitings.
Major needs to be able to identify this because he's about to load up a medevac, I feel, to send it across the map. And if he's like going across the map with the medevac and there's Roaches going to his base, it's not going to be fun. I don't think his Hellies have seen the Roaches yet.
Oh,
I think
they do now.
Yeah, okay, so he sees them now, so he should keep his units back home, burrow those Widow Mines at his national expansion, or he can be really bold and send them across the map. No.
And you know what's very important about losing the Hellions is now Major doesn't know what's behind the Roaches. It's so important for the Terran to know if it's just 10 Roaches or it's 10 Roaches with baitings behind him. Major's now totally in the dark. He's trying to get his defenses ready. He has a good amount of Widow Mines using the medevac to scout. 4
Widow Mines here, and again, no layer from Killer, so no real way to detect those Widow Mines. He's about to make a bunch of Banelings. Baneliness just finished. He has 300 gas in the bank, waiting for the Lings to get closer, and he's going to try to bust Major's front door, but I think Major might have seen this soon enough. He has 4 Widow Mines there, 1 more in production, not going into siege tanks, because, again, it wasn't able to get a tech lab on that factory, but Killer coming forward here with a lot of Roaches, a lot of Lings. All the Widow Mine have spent their shots. 1 more Widow Mine burrowing down, but a Baneling getting a great detonation here. Killer trying to take out Major in this first game, but I think Major has a very solid defense so far.
Oh, his Walt domain, though, is not complete, but Killer's going to take it down with Banelings. Roaches coming up. There's plenty of SCVs to tank, but there's not too much damage, and 1 Marauder is going to be key there to try and take out those Roaches before too many SCVs are lost.
Okay, Widow Mines are about to start recharging here, so Killer's reinforcements, he has to be very careful with those. Doesn't want to lose any Lings for free. Now, Major does have 3 command centers on the ground, so as long as he can defend here, he's got Stim, about 70% of the way done. No engineering base, but we'll keep an eye on that. This isn't a killing blow, I don't think, by Killer, and I feel like I'm a little wary of the fact that Killer hasn't resumed drone production. Still nothing but units in that production tab, so I'm finally adding a drone there.
On the same hand, Major, because he lost some economy, he had to choose between continuing to build SCVs or units, and he's been cutting SCV production. Not a single SCV been built in the last 30 seconds. Still in the production tab. No SCVs from Major. His 3rd command center, he hasn't turned it into an orbital.
Whoa, 6 Banelings coming in here, taking down the bunker very fast. The Lings spewing on by. 2 Mules going to die there at the national expansion. Widow Mine taking a shot at a Ling. 1 Viking is going to die as well. Killer doing a great job, again, just trying to slow Major down. Again, I don't think this is going to kill Major by any means. We see Killer behind this, making those drones, and now we're understanding, why Killer was still making units there, because he wasn't done, and getting a good amount of damage done there.
Yeah, for what he paid there, I mean, taking out a depots, taking out the Viking, a good number of SCVs and mules. Major just now making that orbital command and making SCVs. So yes, Major wasn't eliminated there, but he took some serious damage here. Units lost is fairly even.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And going forward here, I have to give Killer a slight advantage. Sometimes in a situation, the Zerg player is more behind because the Terrans got 1-1 on the way. They have the 3rd orbital already throwing down mules. But in a situation, Major doesn't have those upgrades. The 3rd orbital was delayed. His SV production was delayed as well. So Killer's going to be very happy with the damage he's done. He's got a significant worker lead. It's going to be very difficult for Major to take the 3rd base. And he's actually going to have an upgrade advantage, which is very unusual when you commit to this much early aggression as Zerg.
Made a few Roaches there, which is a little bit interesting. Every Roach you make, again, is taken away from gas that you could potentially spend on Zergling upgrades, take away from gas that, you're intending to use on Spire. And even more strange is that he went for the melee attack. So he just made a few Roaches, I guess, just to stay safe.
Drop defense, perhaps.
Drop defense, perhaps. And now he's going to transition straight into that Ling, Baneling, Muta style.
So now what's going to be central is what can Major do to either solidify a 3rd base or to put pressure on Killer's 3rd.
He's going to try to do some aggression up the top side of that. Now, this is safe in a certain extent as far as you can just pick up in the medevac, but I think submarines might have to be left at home Way too many Marines there to fit in that medevac. So Major has to be relatively careful. Widowmine's coming forward. An Overseer is there, going to burrow one down in the ground. Nice micro so far here from Killer, peeling away some Lings, and he's going to have plenty of units to deal with this.
Oh, and the Speedies might run down the Marines. Luckily for Major, though, there's so many roaches and slow Banelings in the army, they can't run down to stem bio off creep. So there weren't enough Speedies to run down the Marines. Major escapes, going for a drop plane out the third. But Killer does see this. His army is very close.
Yeah, just the threat there, though, is nice from Major. He knows exactly where his opponent's army is going to be, which is very nice to know. Medevac just going to pick those guys up and get out of there. Again, without any mutas on the field, there's nothing real to really kill that Medevac unless it flies over a Spore Crawler or a Queen. Major's control is good enough where that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I'm wondering when he's going to try to decide to send that third base, to the third orbital to its proper location, either at the bottom or at the middle left. That's a big decision. If Major can get that down and hold it, he's going to be very happy, but we'll have to see when he tries to do that.
Drop trying to get some more damage done, but Killer's defense so far is very solid. Killer's about to build at least 10, 11 Mulists in production. He has the money bank. There it goes, 11 Mulists. Once those come out, it's going to be much more difficult to drop them. Major trying to distract the drop in a natural. As Killer responds to that, there's another army striking at his third.
Yeah, that medevac and all those units are going to die. Bailey's trying to get some solid connections. Good micro there from Major. Going to be kiting away and splitting up those Marines very efficiently. But again, 11 mutas about to pop.
Oh, there's no medevac with those Marines.
I think he can turn and kill this stuff anyway.
Yeah, he can, but when mutas come out,
yeah,
those might not make it back home. They're so damaged by Sten.
There's 2 in production. I'm not sure where the rest are. We'll definitely keep an eye on that, though, for sure.
One medevac coming to try to greet those Marines, to escort them out, but
I tell 2 of those Marines just turn around and save the rest.
Sacrifice themselves for the cause.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not a bad trade. Major cashing up upgrades, now getting 1-to-1. Killer, of course, slowed his 2-2 upgrades in order to get that giant burst of Mulis. Yep. Which is going to enable him to totally shut down any drop harass from Major. Also, he could potentially put on some counter aggression.
It doesn't take a lot of it doesn't take a lot of time for mutas to go us again as short of a map as this. So I'm looking for turrets. I'm not seeing any from Major right now, unless I'm completely blind. No, I don't think I am.
Relying on aggression right now to keep Killer on the defensive.
I'm okay with that idea. It buys him time, and it maximizes the efficiency of the units he already has on the field. Get to deny the space, the middle right. But a lot of units starting to come out onto the field here for Killer. 2-2 getting started up at 62 drones. These Marines and Ron are going to get caught, and they're probably all going to die here.
The medevacs are the most important units. They're not going to be making home. Ignite Afterburners has worn away. 2 medevacs go down. The third is under fire. All the bios getting picked away by Speedies as well.
Some more reinforcements sprinting forward to try to save this existing army, but a bunch of Banelings about to finish up here for Killer. 5 medevacs overhead, but with the Banelings underneath, if there's nothing to heal, the medevacs aren't going to be that helpful. So this third base is definitely going to be denied. There's no way that gets up right now. He's going to lift that up, move it right back into his main base, and Major can't really reinforce. He's trapped in between this section of land that's very vulnerable here that Killer is taking advantage of. Great play from Killer so far.
Major's been bleeding away so many Marines. His unit count is very low. His 2 Widow Mines on the high ground could be instrumental in his defense.
Oh, they got to get great detonations off. The Baneling's going to run into the SCVs. Utter destruction here. The natural expansion of Major trying to keep his economy alive, but Killer with way too much stuff up. 115 to 84 in supply. Nothing here to defend in the main base, and I think Killer might take game 1 right now.
I mean, he's just camping the production. At this point, there's roaches, mutas. There goes the GG, and Killer looked convincing in that set. Everything Major did from his defense, Killer was able to overwhelm the defense. And then when Major put on the attack on Killer, Killer took no drone losses.
Yes.
And he even killed a lot of Major's Marines. He was losing 5 Marines here, 10 Marines there, and then when it came down to the counter swing, he had nothing to defend.
And it's one of those things where, and this is very important as a Zerg, where he had like just enough units to kind of deal with those pushes, because you always want to save as many resources as possible for making drones, and of course proceeding your tech, proceeding your upgrades, which is what he was doing. So only making enough units to defend against those pushes from Major, and then accumulating those resources so you can get that immense wave of mutas, which was instrumental in this game. Major was in a situation where turrets were way too late. It's one of those things where, okay, if you're having to invest into those turrets, you're already behind in the game. It's not really worth it. You're just making it worse for yourself. So again, trying to rely on that aggression, which is great, but Killer just had too much.
Yep. Simple matter of more Zerg beating less Terran, and Killer control it very well as well. Taking game number 1 quite convincingly. We'll be right back with game number 2 after a short break.